Welcome to Suri Cheating Story, where we share true stories of betrayal in love. Our channel brings heartfelt, real-life experiences from those who have endured the pain of infidelity. Whether you're facing challenges in your own relationship or seeking to better understand the complexities of love and trust, Suri Cheating Story is the place for you. Subscribe now to explore the emotional depths in the path to healing with us. Suri sat on the edge of the bed, her fingers clutching the phone, the screen still glowing with the message that had shattered her world. "I can't believe it," she whispered to herself. It wasn't just the words, it was the images. Her best friend Lily, her confidant, the one who had been by her side for years, was wrapped in the arms of her husband Ethan, in a way that left no room for misinterpretation. The intimacy, the connection, it was all too real, too undeniable. She felt as though the floor had been ripped out from under her. Every memory of their time together, every promise Ethan had ever made, came crashing down. Suri's heart thudded painfully in her chest as the gravity of the situation sank in. How could this happen? How could Ethan, the man she had trusted with her heart, the man she had built a life with, betray her like this? And how could Lily, the person she had shared everything with, the late-night talks, the laughter, the tears, be the one to stab her in the back? The phone trembled in her hands as her mind raced. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't think. The betrayal felt like a thick fog, clouding her thoughts, suffocating her. She had known something was off. She had sensed the distance in Ethan's eyes, the way he had become more and more distracted. But she had told herself it was just stress, that it was just the pressures of life creeping in. She had never imagined it could be this. Not with Lily, not with someone she loved and trusted. Her eyes blurred with tears, but Suri refused to let them fall. She had always prided herself on being strong, on facing challenges head-on, on never letting anything break her. But this was different. This wasn't just a setback or a struggle. This was the kind of betrayal that sliced through your soul, that left you questioning everything you had ever believed in. Suri stood up abruptly, her legs shaky beneath her. The room seemed to spin, as if the very walls were closing in on her. She paced back and forth, her mind still reeling from the image that had burned itself into her brain. Ethan's face, that look of affection he had always reserved for her, now shared with Lily. The thought of it made her feel sick to her stomach. What do I do now, she thought, her chest tightening with each passing second. She wanted to scream, to confront them both, to demand an explanation. But even as the anger swelled within her, another emotion crept in: fear. Fear of losing everything. Fear of the life she had built with Ethan crumbling before her eyes. Fear of facing a future she never imagined for herself, one where trust had been destroyed and the foundation of her world lay in ruins. Suri's mind raced as she thought back to the countless moments of intimacy she and Ethan had shared. The late-night talks, the quiet mornings over coffee, the way he would hold her when she was stressed, the way he made her feel safe. How could that man, the man she thought she knew so well, be capable of this? And Lily, how could she, her best friend, the person who knew all her secrets, do this to her? Her hands clenched into fists, her nails biting into the palms of her hands. How could I have been so blind? She berated herself, self-doubt creeping in. She had seen the signs, hadn't she? The late nights at work, the secretive phone calls, the sudden distance between them. But she had made excuses for him, believing in the love they had built. Now it all felt like a cruel joke. The anger surged in her chest, hot and bitter. She couldn't stay in this room anymore. Couldn't stay in this house. It felt like a prison, like every corner was filled with reminders of the lies and deceit that had taken root in her life. Without thinking, she grabbed her coat and stormed out the door. The night air hit her like a slap in the face. It was cold, biting, the kind of cold that seemed to freeze everything in its path. Suri walked down the street, not knowing where she was going or what she was even looking for. The only thing she knew was that she needed to escape. She needed to clear her head, to think. As she walked aimlessly, her thoughts consumed her. The city around her felt distant, as if it were a world she no longer belonged to. Every step she took felt heavier, as though the weight of the betrayal was pressing down on her shoulders. She could feel the tears welling up in her eyes again, but she wouldn't let them fall. Not yet. She wouldn't let this defeat her. She couldn't. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, breaking the silence. She pulled it out, her hands shaking. It was a message from Ethan. "I'm so sorry, Suri. Please, let's talk. I never meant for this to happen." The message was short, simple, and yet it felt like a dagger to her heart. She wanted to scream, to throw the phone against the wall. How dare he? How dare he apologize now? After everything. The damage had already been done. The trust had already been shattered. There was nothing he could say that would make this right. She stared at the message for a moment longer, her fingers hovering over the keyboard as if willing herself to respond. But no words came. She couldn't find the right words, the right way to express the depth of her anger and hurt. So instead, she turned the phone off, shoving it back into her pocket. Suri kept walking, her footsteps echoing in the empty street, until she finally reached the park, a place she used to visit with Ethan on weekends. It had always been their place, a spot where they would sit together, talking about everything and nothing. But tonight it felt foreign, a reminder of everything she had lost. She sat down on the bench, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The chill of the night air seeped through her clothes, but she didn't care. The physical cold was nothing compared to the hollow emptiness in her chest. As the wind howled around her, Suri closed her eyes, trying to block out the noise, trying to silence the pain. The tears she had been holding back finally spilled over, falling silently down her cheeks. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to feel it all. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the devastation. It was overwhelming, suffocating. But through the storm of emotions, one thought emerged clearly. She would not let this destroy her. She would rise above it. She would rebuild her life, piece by piece, no matter how long it took. Suri had never felt so alone in her life. The night air, cold and biting, did little to numb the ache that had settled deep inside her chest. She sat there on that park bench for what felt like hours, her mind replaying the same images over and over again. The pictures on her phone, the closeness between Ethan and Lily. The betrayal was like a wound that refused to heal, reopening each time she thought of it. She wanted to scream. She wanted to run back to the apartment, confront them both, demand answers. But part of her knew that there would never be a satisfactory explanation. There was no justification for what they had done, and no amount of words could take away the hurt that had been inflicted. As the hours passed, she made up her mind. She was done waiting, done hiding behind the silence and the lies. She wasn't going to let this destroy her, but she needed to face it head on. She needed to look Ethan in the eye, see the truth in his face, and make him understand the consequences of his actions. Suri stood up, brushing the dirt from her coat, and took one last look at the park. The place that had once been filled with memories of laughter and love now felt like a graveyard of broken dreams. It was time to move on. But first, she needed closure. She needed to end it. She walked briskly toward the apartment, each step purposeful, each one more determined than the last. Her mind was clear now. She knew what she had to do. She wasn't going to beg for answers or cry for forgiveness. She had given enough of herself to this relationship, and it was time to reclaim her dignity. When she reached the door, her heart was pounding in her chest. She didn't know what to expect when she walked in. Would Ethan be there? Would Lily be there too? The thought made her sick, but she steeled herself. She wasn't going to fall apart. Not now. Taking a deep breath, she pushed open the door. The apartment was eerily quiet. No voices, no laughter, nothing. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the soft ticking of the clock. It was almost as if time itself had stopped. Ethan wasn't home yet, but she knew he would be soon, and she had to be ready. Suri moved through the apartment slowly, her eyes scanning the familiar surroundings. Nothing looked out of place, except for the weight of the lies that hung in the air. She didn't want to cry. She didn't want to feel sorry for herself. She had to stay strong. For herself. For the future she still wanted to build, even if it wasn't with Ethan. As she stood by the window, looking out at the city below, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Ethan. "I'm on my way home. Please, can we talk? I swear I'll explain everything. I'm so sorry." Suri stared at the screen for a moment, the words almost mocking her. He wanted to talk? Now? After everything? No, she thought. He had no right. She didn't want to hear his excuses. She didn't want to hear him tell her how sorry he was. She had already heard that too many times before, but the trust was gone. The love was gone. She typed a reply, her fingers trembling as she did. I'm waiting for you. I'll be here when you get home. We need to talk. She hit send, then dropped her phone on the couch, feeling a strange sense of finality in the action. She had done it. The conversation was coming, and it would be the end of everything. The end of the life she had built with Ethan. The end of the illusions she had lived with. And maybe, just maybe, it would be the start of something new. Time seemed to stretch on forever. Suri paced back and forth, her mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. What would she say? What would he say? She wasn't sure. She didn't have the words all figured out. She just knew that she needed to speak her truth. She needed him to know the pain he had caused, to understand that this was not something that could be easily fixed. The door opened, and Ethan stepped inside, looking tired, disheveled. He froze when he saw her standing there, and for a brief moment, Suri thought she saw a flicker of regret in his eyes. But then it was gone, replaced by a look of uncertainty. Suri, he started, his voice hesitant, as if testing the waters. We need to talk. Suri didn't say anything at first. She just looked at him, studying his face. His eyes, those eyes she had once trusted, now felt like strangers to her. She couldn't look at him the same way anymore. She couldn't unsee the betrayal. She couldn't unfeel the hurt. You're right, she said finally, her voice steady, though it trembled slightly beneath the surface. We do need to talk. But I don't think I can listen to your excuses anymore. I've heard them all before. Ethan opened his mouth to speak, but Suri raised her hand, silencing him. I know what you did, she continued, her voice cold but resolute. I saw the pictures. I saw everything. And I can't pretend I didn't. He looked shocked, his face draining of color. Suri, I didn't mean for this to happen. It was a mistake. A stupid, horrible mistake. Suri shook her head, the tears finally starting to well in her eyes. But this time, they weren't tears of sorrow. They were tears of anger, of frustration. A mistake? A mistake is forgetting to take out the trash. A mistake is being late for dinner. What you did, what you both did, it wasn't a mistake. It was a choice to betray me, a choice to hurt me, and I can't forgive that. Ethan stood there, rooted to the spot, the weight of Suri's words settling in like a heavy stone in his chest. He opened his mouth to speak again, but no words came. He didn't know how to fix this. How could he? How could he explain something so unexplainable? He had betrayed the woman who had loved him unconditionally, who had stood by him through every trial, every hardship. Suri's gaze pierced him, her eyes no longer filled with the love he had once seen there. Instead, they were cold, distant, full of pain and anger. She wasn't the same woman who had smiled at him over breakfast just a few weeks ago. The person standing before him was someone stronger, someone who was done tolerating his lies. Do you think I don't know? Suri's voice cracked slightly, but she quickly regained her composure. Do you think I couldn't feel the distance between us? The way you started pulling away? I wasn't blind, Ethan. I saw it. I just refused to believe it. I wanted to believe in us so badly that I ignored the signs. She took a slow, steady breath, trying to keep her emotions from spilling over. The anger inside her was boiling, but underneath it, there was something else, something deeper. It was the realization that the man she had shared her life with, the man she had trusted with her heart, had never truly been hers, not in the way she thought. You've been lying to me, to us, she continued, her voice gaining strength. And you're standing here asking me to just forgive you? To just move on? Do you think it's that easy? Do you think the love we had can just be erased? Ethan took a step forward, reaching out as if to touch her, but Suri stepped back, holding up her hand in a firm, silent rejection. His face faltered, and for a moment, he looked like he might crumble under the weight of her words. He knew he had failed her. He knew there was no excuse for what he had done, but he still couldn't bring himself to fully face the consequences. I don't know what to say, Suri, Ethan admitted, his voice low. I messed up. I've made the worst mistake of my life. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. Suri's laugh was bitter. You never meant for it to happen? Her voice rose now, the hurt and betrayal spilling out. Do you think I don't know that? Do you think I haven't heard that excuse 1,000 times before? It just happened. Well, let me tell you something. Nothing just happens. You made a choice. Ethan, you made a choice to betray me, and that choice has consequences. Ethan flinched at her words. His eyes dropped to the floor, unable to meet her gaze. I never wanted to hurt you, Suri. I thought I could fix it, fix everything. But I've been lying to myself, thinking I could get away with it. Suri shook her head, feeling her anger surge once more. You think you could fix it? You think a simple apology or some sweet words will make everything better? She took a step closer to him, her voice growing firmer with each word. You took something from me, Ethan. You took my trust, my heart, and you destroyed it. And now you want me to just accept your apology like it means anything? Her words hit him like a punch to the gut. She could see it in his eyes now. The regret, the guilt. But it was too late. All the apologies in the world wouldn't undo the damage. He had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Suri paused, letting the silence hang in the air between them. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Ethan's gaze was fixed on the floor, while Suri's heart beat wildly in her chest. The realization settling in. There was no going back. Not anymore. Not after everything. Do you love her? Suri's voice was steady now, but the pain behind it was clear. She had to know. She needed to hear him say it. Ethan opened his mouth, but no words came. The truth hung there, unspoken, thick with tension. He didn't need to say it. Suri could see it in his eyes, in the way he was unable to meet her gaze. The truth was simple. His heart was no longer hers. She had known it for a while, but hearing it from him, hearing it confirmed, made the wound in her chest deepen. She turned away from him then, her heart breaking all over again. There was nothing left to say. No more fights to be had. She had given everything to this relationship, and now she was walking away with nothing but the shards of her broken heart. I never thought it would end like this, Suri said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. I never thought you could do this to me, Ethan. But I can't keep fighting for someone who doesn't even care enough to fight for me. With those words, she made her decision. She wouldn't beg for his love. She wouldn't beg for his respect. He had shown her who he was, and now she had to show him who she was too. A woman who would not be defined by his mistakes. A woman who would not be broken by his betrayal. I'm done, she said, turning toward the door. I'm done with you. As she walked out of the apartment, the weight of everything seemed to lift off her shoulders, even though her heart still felt shattered. Suri didn't know what the future would hold, but she knew one thing. She would never let herself be diminished again. The night air hit Suri like a cold, cleansing wave as she stepped out of the apartment. The city lights blurred around her, but for the first time in what felt like forever, she felt a sense of clarity. The anger and heartbreak that had consumed her just moments ago had started to fade, replaced by something stronger. Something that wasn't defined by Ethan, by betrayal, or by the pieces of her life that had been ripped apart. Suri walked briskly down the street, the sound of her footsteps sharp against the pavement. She didn't know where she was going. All she knew was that she couldn't stay in that apartment another second. She couldn't stay in the life that had been built on lies and deceit. She needed space. She needed time to breathe, to think, and to reclaim herself. She had spent so long wrapped up in someone else's world, in someone else's lies, that she had forgotten who she was. Her mind wandered back to the years she had spent with Ethan, the early days of their relationship, when everything felt perfect, when they had shared their hopes, their fears, their dreams. But it wasn't real. It couldn't have been, because if it were, this would never have happened. Suri had been blind to the cracks that had formed in their relationship long before the betrayal. And maybe, just maybe, the universe had forced her to see it now because she needed to wake up. She needed to face the truth. The night was quiet as she walked, and with each step she felt a little lighter. Her heart was still heavy, but it wasn't drowning in sorrow anymore. It was a weight that she could carry. It was a lesson she would learn from. She had been hurt, yes, but she wouldn't let it define her. As Suri walked, she passed by a small park, the soft hum of life still echoing in the distance. She paused for a moment, standing by the bench where she and Ethan had spent so many afternoons together. The memory hit her like a wave, and for a brief moment, she felt the sting of nostalgia. She remembered the warmth of his hand in hers, the way he had made her laugh when life seemed too hard. But that person was gone now. The man she had once known had vanished, replaced by a stranger, a man who had broken her trust in the most unforgivable way. She took a deep breath and sat down on the bench. The wind whispered through the trees, and for the first time in a long time, Suri felt at peace. The pain was still there, but it wasn't all-consuming. She wasn't helpless anymore. She had fought for so long, for so many people. Her parents, Ethan, friends who never truly cared. But now, she realized it was time to fight for herself. She was no longer going to be a casualty of someone else's choices. She was going to heal. She was going to move on. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, and for a moment, she considered ignoring it. But the message was from Lily, the last person she ever expected to hear from. Suri hesitated before opening it. I know I can never fix what I've done. I've betrayed you in the worst way possible, and I can't even begin to apologize for that. I'm so sorry, Suri. Please know that I regret every moment of my actions. Please forgive me. The words hit her harder than she expected. She had never imagined that Lily would reach out. The woman who had been her closest friend, the woman who had shared so many intimate moments with her, now a stranger. But Suri didn't want to waste any more energy on her. She didn't want to feel sorry for someone who had hurt her in such a profound way. Suri didn't respond to the message. There was nothing to say. She didn't need to hear it. She had already heard the one apology that mattered. The apology she gave herself. The forgiveness she needed wasn't from Lily or Ethan. It was from her own heart. She stood up from the bench, her eyes scanning the city around her. She didn't know what the future held, but she was ready to find out. She was ready to rediscover herself, to rebuild her life, piece by piece. She wasn't going to let her past define her. She wasn't going to let Ethan's betrayal or Lily's deceit take another moment of her time. As Suri walked away from the park, the sun began to rise in the distance, casting a warm golden light over the city. For the first time in a long time, she felt a flicker of hope in her chest. It was small, but it was enough. She had lost everything she thought she needed, but in the process, she had found something even more important: herself. She would take the next step forward, even if it meant walking alone. Because for the first time, Suri knew that she could stand on her own, that she could survive, and more importantly, she could thrive. She wasn't the broken woman she had been just hours ago. She was stronger, wiser, ready to embrace a future that was entirely her own. And so, she walked forward, leaving the pain behind her, one step at a time. If you find this story interesting and want to see more touching, tense, but meaningful situations, don't forget to subscribe to our channel today. Leave a comment with your thoughts. Share this story with your friends, and remember to like the video so we can stay motivated to bring you more great and meaningful content. Thank you for watching and supporting us.